Hi, I'm Riley. I'm 26 years old. I recently got married to the love of my life, and while I wish it went off drama-free, that was not the case. Okay, let me give you the backstory of the entire event. I met David when I was part-timing at a firm to complete my internship requirement for my degree. The both of us were interning at the same firm, and always happened to be working on the same projects. That's how we started talking. Pretty quickly, we started meeting up outside the office at cafes and movie theatres. We went on multiple dates before making our relationship official. Now, David was studying in a college a state over, but his hometown was the same as mine. He was in town because he had a semester off to intern, and he chose to do it in our hometown. I was so glad he made that decision because I got to meet the most amazing man. David and I shared a mutual love for a lot of things and bonded over it. Eventually, when the time came for David to return to college, the two of us were heartbroken. I remember having David over at my place the night before he left and just crying in his arms. David was in tears too, because he didn't want to leave me either. I made him promise to keep in touch with me every day. David assured me that he would. I asked him to make sure to take care of his health, and David asked the same for me. He promised me that he would try his best to make frequent trips back whenever he had enough free time. I promised to do the same. That's how we spent the rest of that night, just making promises to each other and holding each other in our arms. After David had left, we kept up with all our promises. Anytime either of us had a long holiday or break, we would fly to each other. We called for hours every day and kept each other updated on everything that was happening to us. That is how we kept a relationship alive and thriving. When we hit the 1-year mark of dating, we introduced each other to our families. My family invited David with open arms. They loved how happy he made me, so they had no problem considering him as a part of the family. David's family, however, was not so easy to please. David came from a rather conservative family. They weren't the biggest fans of their children dating, especially when they were busy pursuing their studies, but they reluctantly agreed to meet me. Initially, it was a little awkward, but eventually, David's father and his siblings warmed up to me. The only person who didn't was David's mother, Greta. Greta was cold from the start to the end of my weekend stay with them. She found every opportunity to make snide remarks against me. She made fun of my choice of schools and my interests. On my first night during dinner, Greta even went as far as to insult my family's social standing. Oh, I was obviously upset after Greta insulted my parents. While the rest of the table stared at Greta in shock, David stood up for me.
Mum, you're not allowed to talk to Riley so rudely. Relax, I'm just stating facts. Those facts are hurtful and untrue. Well, maybe they have some weight since she didn't choose the better school. Riley's choices are not yours to judge. You owe her an apology. Oh, please, fine, sorry, whatever. That's not sincere, Mum. Apologise properly. Sorry, Riley.
Thank you, Greta.
Treat Riley with respect or you won't be a part of our lives. Whatever!
Dinner continued, but it was still very awkward. I was obviously hurt and upset at the way that David's mother was treating me. I mean, she didn't even know me. I knew that I didn't choose the more prestigious school, but that was only because I wanted to be closer to home. I loved my family. I wanted to be there with them. My parents could more than afford to send me there, but I decided to stay and be with them. I loved that David stood up for me, especially against his own mother. I clearly saw that day how I would always be his number one, and that's what made me love him even more. When they were just about to leave David's place that evening, David's dad, Peter, apologized to me for his wife's behavior.
I'm truly sorry for Greta's behavior, Riley.
You're lovely, Peter, and you don't need to apologize to her.
Oh, Greta's just overprotective of David, you see.
I understand that feeling well. My family's like that too.
Does that mean they treated David the same way?
Oh no, I'm sorry for the confusion. We're just protective of each other. The last thing they wanted was for one of us to get hurt, so they were very guarded when someone brings home a new partner. But the second they see how happy the partner makes the person, they become more welcoming.
So, did your family welcome David warmly?
Absolutely. They embraced him more than warmly, seeing how happy he made me in the 1 year we've been together.
I'm glad he found a place in your family.
Your family's different, and that's okay. I'm pretty good at adjusting to new dynamics.
Still, I'm sorry Greta hasn't been as welcoming.
It's alright. I'm sure she'll come around with time.
I have to say, I love your enthusiasm.
Thank you. I believe she'll change her perspective eventually.
I like your positivity. I truly hope Greta warms up to you.
That interaction with Peter made me feel very welcome in David's family. I already sensed that being welcomed by Greta would take a while, but I knew that I'd wait as long as I needed to because David was worth it. However, David also made sure to remind me that the way his mother viewed me never reflected the way he viewed me. I was super grateful for David and was glad he had my back no matter what. As the years passed, the two of us graduated and David moved back into our hometown. David and I moved in together and were really happy to finally be able to spend all our time together. Since we were no longer long-distance dating, we made sure to make good use of all the free time we had. We would frequently go on dates, and if we couldn't, we'd go on nice long walks in the evenings. We were inseparable. So it came without a surprise when on one of our long evening walks, David got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I was overjoyed and said yes through tears streaming down my face, and thus began the next few tiring months of wedding planning. People say that the months leading to the wedding are the most stressful, and that's what puts a huge strain on the relationship. I did not see that in my relationship because it was in fact the stress that brought David and I even closer. The only obstacle there was, you guessed it, David's mother, Greta. Greta insisted on being part of every single thing. She needed to know about everything that was being planned, down to the colour of the tablecloths. She would call me every day at 8 a.m. sharp to ask me what my plans were for the day. I would tell her the same thing I did every day. Work. Greta would then ask me about the wedding plans, and I would remind her that while the wedding was an important event, I still needed to work to be able to afford the wedding. Greta would huff and tell me to step up and take my wedding seriously. Initially that comment irked me, but as I listened to it every day, I learnt to just let the comment pass. I would simply say yes to Greta, and then she would make me promise that I would involve her in everything related to the wedding. I would roll my eyes and agree, but never actually involve her. At some point, I began to feel bad for not involving Greta, so I talked to David about it. I feel bad that I'm not involving Greta. I know her calls are annoying, but involving her might help my relationship with her, right?
Honestly, I doubt it, my love.
What do you mean?
She has this need to control everything, like to the point of it actually ruining the occasion.
I see. Maybe if we let her in just a bit.
I know how you feel. You could let her help you out in a small portion, maybe, but don't get your hopes up.
I'll keep my fingers crossed that she'll appreciate the chance and treat me well.
Just remember, I've got your back no matter what.
Thanks, babe. Let's hope for the best. I decided to let Greta help me pick out the cake for the wedding. I explicitly told Greta that she only got to have options, that I was in no way obligated to listen to those opinions. Greta agreed and told me not to worry. When the day came to go to various vendors, Greta obviously didn't listen to my wishes. Greta made a huge fuss about everything from the appearance of the stores to the prices. She purposely criticized everything that I liked. She constantly tried to haggle over the various vendors. Oh, I was beyond embarrassed by the way that Greta behaved. I didn't say anything to Greta, only out of respect for the fact that Greta was going to be my mother-in-law. Although I didn't doubt that David would not have had an issue if I had said something to Greta. I ended up cutting the day short by lying to Greta that I had some urgent work to tend to, and told Greta that we would meet up at a later time to figure out the cake details. I left before Greta could make a comment about me not taking the wedding seriously, because I had had enough of her for the entire week. When David got back home from work, he took one look at me and began laughing. Through his laughs, he managed to ask me how the day with Greta went.
So how was your day with Mum?
Oh, you have no idea. She embarrassed me the entire time.
Really? That's bad? Yeah, bad enough that I think we need new vendors now. See, I knew involving her was a risky move.
I was just trying to make things better between us.
My love, I'm going to say this again just to remind you that my mum's behaviour doesn't define our relationship. I love you no matter what.
Thanks, darling. Maybe I won't involve Greta anymore.
Sounds like a plan.
And so the rest of the months leading up to the wedding went on, as it did before, with Greta continuing to ask me to involve her in the wedding. I never did involve her again, and I kept making excuses to get Greta off my back. Eventually, David stepped in.
Mum, we want to plan our wedding ourselves without anyone else's input. How could you manage such an important day on your own? Well, I'm not the only one planning the wedding. Riley is involved too. She must be the one to push you to exclude me. I'm telling you, she's not good for you. No, listen. I was the one who suggested not involving you. In fact, Riley was the one that asked me to give you a chance. You need to stop taking shots at her.
You wanted to exclude me. How could you do this to your own mother?
Mum, I didn't want to hurt you. We both wish you'd respect our decisions.
You're pushing me away for her sake.
No, I'm asking for your understanding. Riley and I want to plan our dream wedding together. We really don't need any help.
Fine, but I've always wanted the best for you.
We know, Mum, but we need your support, not your control.
I just worry about you, David.
We appreciate that, but please, for my sake, respect our wishes.
After David's conversation with his mother, Greta stopped contacting us as much. I felt so relieved to not have to deal with her. David and I were able to fully focus on planning. Finally, the day of the wedding came, and I was a mess of nerves and excitement. I was happy to finally be able to be married to the love of my life. Oh, and I desperately hoped that the wedding would go well. The ceremony went off smoothly, and David and I were legally wed. We were over the moon and couldn't wait to celebrate with drinks and dance with the guests. However, that didn't go off as smoothly as I had hoped. While the reception started off well, somewhere along the event, Greta had one drink too many. She ended up getting really drunk. She caused a massive scene by grabbing hold of me and loudly declaring that she would never accept me as part of her family. I squirmed uncomfortably as I tried to free myself from Greta's strong grip. David, on the other hand, was fuming.
Mum, let go of Riley.
Oh, David, I've always known what's best for you. She's not right for you.
I've had enough of your behaviour. Leave now.
You won't throw your own mother out of your wedding?
I'm dead serious. I won't tolerate any disrespect toward my wife. What's going on here? Dad, I want her to leave. She came over just to humiliate and insult Riley. I won't have her treat Riley this way. What is wrong with you?
I'm just being honest.
Honesty doesn't give you the right to humiliate or insult us. I don't want to be associated with that. Greta, let go.
Peter, you can't be serious. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and congrats again. I was very upset by the scene that Greta had caused, but what was more upsetting to me was how Peter could not enjoy the day with us. Still, the party carried on, and the day remained memorable for David and me. The two of us had prepared to go on our honeymoon to Italy a couple of weeks later. We were buzzing with excitement because visiting Italy was on both of our bucket lists. We wanted our honeymoon to be as romantic as possible, and we couldn't think of a better place. We waited impatiently for the day to travel. Finally, when the day arrived, David and I frantically made sure that we had all of our passports and luggage together. Right as we were about to leave our house for the airport, our doorbell rang. We looked at each other in confusion because we didn't know who would come to our place that early in the morning. As we opened the door, our eyes widened in shock to see Greta standing there with her bag packed and her passport in her hand. David looked at his mother in anger.
"What are you doing here, Mum?" "What do you mean?"
"Quit playing dumb, Greta."
"Oh, just thought I'd join you on your holiday." "This isn't a holiday and you know it."
"How did you even know about our honeymoon dates?"
"You logged into your email on my laptop once and forgot to log out." "When was this?" "College, maybe? Can't remember."
"You've been keeping tabs on him since college? You're insane."
"I'm not insane. A concerned mother looks out for her son."
"And why on earth would you want to come on our honeymoon?"
"I won't rest until I show David you're not good enough. That's enough. Leave." "I'm not leaving."
He was seething with anger. I held his arm to calm him down. He then looked at me and smirked. "What's your plan?"
"If my mother wants to sabotage us, let's play her own game."
"I don't get it. What do you mean?"
"Remember our cop costumes from last Halloween?"
"Yeah. Why?"
"Where are they?"
"They're in the box on top of the wardrobe."
"Perfect."
He looked through the peephole and saw Greta still standing outside the door. He asked me to let his mother in. While I did that, David rushed into the bedroom. I stood awkwardly with Greta in the doorway. Greta smirked at me, thinking she had won. I heard David rummaging around with our stuff in the bedroom before finally emerging with our luggage. He asked both of us if we were ready to move. We nodded. Greta walked with a stride in her step. David was insistent on helping his mother with her bags. While he was loading Greta's bag into the car, I noticed David slipping something into the bag. David looked at me and winked. I was confused but couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. David insisted that I drive. The entire way to the airport, David remained on his phone. However, that didn't stop Greta from talking about how excited she was to spend quality time with David and how they had never had a mother-son vacation. I was very uncomfortable, while David just ignored everything his mother was saying. When we made it to the airport, we made it just in time for check-in. While David and my luggage checked in smoothly, Greta's bag began beeping in the machine. The TSA made her empty out her carry-on bag. In that bag was a book that looked like it had something in it. Now, just to set the picture, I need you to imagine a large line of people, both behind her and beside her, who are all impatient but also curious. Everyone looked at Greta. The TSA officer pulled out the book, and the title of the book was How to Spice Up Your Life in the Bedroom. And in the book was a pair of handcuffs. I couldn't stop the snigger that escaped me. I immediately recognized the items. The handcuffs were from the Halloween costume last year, while the book was a gag gift given to David by his friends at his bachelor party. Greta looked like her face was about to explode from the embarrassment. The TSA agent looked at her with a raised brow, while the people behind and around her began snickering and whispering among themselves. Just then, an announcement came through, requesting David and I to board our plane. I looked at David in shock. David told me that he had managed to find a flight that was leaving an hour earlier than our original flight, and since it was the same airline, they were more than happy to accommodate the change in time. I let out a full laugh at how everything had turned out. Greta hurriedly tried to stuff the contents of her bag back in, while David and I rushed to our boarding gate. Greta watched in horror as David and I boarded the plane. She looked angry and embarrassed. She tried to call David, but he let her go to voicemail. David and I enjoyed our honeymoon. Every so often we would remember Greta's face in the airport and burst out laughing. When we came back, David cut off all contact with Greta. We still kept in touch with Peter and even invited him over for dinner one day and shared the story with him. He too burst out laughing and agreed that Greta deserved it. Greta kept trying to approach us, but we never acknowledged or entertained her. In the aftermath of our eventful honeymoon and the unforgettable airport incident, David and I found ourselves closer than ever. We shared laughter over Greta's airport mishap, and it became a cherished memory, one that we will definitely recount to friends and family for years to come. Our home is filled with laughter, love and inside jokes, with the handcuff incidents remaining a hilarious testament to our ability to weather storms together. This incident is a reminder that no matter the circumstances, David and I would always find a way to stand by each other, laugh together, and triumph over any obstacles that came our way. And so our journey continues, full of love and laughter, tied by an unbreakable bond that will remain unwavering throughout the years. Thanks for listening.